Computer. Lights.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. So, today we're working on the B list. This is the list that Brent had come up with, and he had me kind of sort out the things that were going on in my story so that we had sort of the correct amount of things. Why are we having such problems getting you off of here? This is just using my dad's brush to clear my work surface, and some of these things don't want to clear. I'm noticing these things are sort of making it difficult there. Okay. All righty. So we've got a couple of things. Housekeeping is an important part of keeping a good workspace. And I think one of the things I'm going to try to do in 2022 is make sure my workspace is good and clear. So use this is just a microfiber cloth. I just use it on the screen here so that we can get all the gunk off of here. And I like to do that too. And it's just microfiber, and I'm just these monitor tablets. The way that the monitor tablets work, they're at an angle, and so the dust just loves to just sprinkle down and be part of it, and stuff and things and stuff. So, all right. Today we're going to work on my B list. The B list is that list of things that we worked on last week where, and I call it the B list because it's the Brent list, because Brent was the one that came up with this, where I broke down the episode of the comic into its scenes, and then right here, taken all of the items out of here and put them in here. The top of this list is going to be characters, right? And we have a few things that I want to do with my maquettes. Happy Wednesday, Brent. We're working on your list. I'm already calling it the Brent list because you're the one that came up with this idea. First thing we're going to have to do is work on the character stuff. So the characters are number one on the list. I mean, we got 60 different characters or whatever that are in here. And that can be one show where we just do all the different characters and get them all squared away, and then they'll be ready to go and everything will be fine. So the Brent list, it's the Brent list or the B list. Come on. It sounds cool. It sounds cool. Okay. So, so we're going to work on the Brent list today. Really, what we're going to do is we're going to work on not without her hair, huh? It doesn't really matter. I don't need her hair anyway. We're going to work on this list here where we've got all of these things that we're doing. The first thing we're going to do are the flares. There's wrist flares, and then there's ankle flares that are on the uniform. And I just needed a model for this. It didn't really matter what model it was, so I went on ahead and just exported. Well, no, I should still put it in here. Let me show you what I'm doing. So we've got our dear and lovely model here. And all I'm doing is I'm just putting her center so that my son would be quick to note that she is in what we call the classic T-pose, which is the default mode for graphics. The arms outstretched to either side. Although in this instance, I just raised her arms mostly because I wanted to see how much of a bump we're going to get on her shoulder, because we're going to have to go over her shoulder for the spacesuit piece, which is only a chest piece with fins on the back. But we're going to do that so we can have a newer and more advanced chest piece. Right? The A pose. YMCA. Right? Then they'd just be a whole bunch of, well, we already have the sailors, right? I mean, we already have the sailors. We're already there. We're at least one, what is that, fifth? 1/5 of the way there. We have sailors. So there's that. Okay. So what we want to do is talk about essentially these flares right here. See how I've got a flare going on the leg? This is a reaction control thruster set that they just always have. It's a Lifeline RC set that just goes with the uniform. You put it on in your uniform. It's just part of the uniform. That way, if you get stuck in space and there's an emergency evacuation of the bridge, or wherever you are, you're just walking down a hallway and all of a sudden a hole opens up and you're thrown out into space. Your hands have a covering, a shield that goes over them, and the head has a covering that goes over it. The suit can hold life support for about 1 hour, but you also have small RC thrusters, so you can reorient yourself and try to fly back to the ship. And so these are little teeny RC thrusters. They're like sterno cans. I mean, they're really simple, simple things to use, and they don't explode, and they're completely inert until you activate them and stuff like that. They're probably antimatter, just because sometimes you're like, what did we do to our soldiers again? So first thing we're going to do is build these pieces right here. Right, so we're going to go down into here, and we only need to build an inkling of what we're doing. But since it's down here, it's going to be an inkling of what we're doing. Okay, so we're going to start with add a mesh. We're going to start with a cylinder, and we've already got like too many pieces on it for what I've got. So I'm going to go over here and go into my paths, because I really don't want this many cuts into it. I really don't want, like, what am I thinking? 4 or 5? I don't know. So, got to remember how to do these things. Something in here tells me what to do on using these things. Object properties. No, not delta transform. No. Instancing? No. Motion paths. One of these tells me bah. Because I don't want to build a stock one myself, but the truth is I really only want 6 faces on this. Because we're going to have a billion of these guys wearing these things, and so I really don't want to have to go through and have to, fuss with them every time. So, but you know what? I'm not pushed. So, I mean, really, honestly, the maquettes are a gajillion, million, gajillion, gazillion vertices themselves. So, all right, we're just going to go on ahead and do this. Remember, we need to be in naked mode for everything that we do. And we'll go up to here. We're just going to take this whole guy and shrink him down. Like so. Okay. And we'll go in here and we're going to bring this up to about that point there. And then we're going to select the bottom piece here. Just give it a little bit of a divot inside so that it kind of goes down a little. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of thing. This is where I'm going to regret my life choices. Okay, so the bottom part of this scales out like so, but also skews like this. So it stays with the foot mostly, but scales out to that point there, right? And then this point here just comes up like so. I'm going to just bring that back in. Bring it over like that. When we look at the master drawing, again, the whole point here, when it goes all the way up to her knee, really, which makes some sense. Nothing's moving on your lower leg, to the knee, so it could go all the way to there and be fine, right? So we're going to move it to there, like so, and shrink it down a little bit more there, like that. Give it a little bit of that. Now, it's gotten very, very long. So, time for us to go onto this side and shape it in this way. And here's where things get kind of questionable. Like now, we've got this kind of going around her knee there. Bring this out like so, which gives a nice flare to her pants sort of thing going kind of here. But the truth of the matter is, I kind of feel like I want to bring it back a little so that it kind of matches this curve. So we're going to go like this and bring it back to here so it matches the curve of her pants. And then extrude more up to her knee. And then bring this forward so it also matches. And then we can just expand that out a little. Now, as far as what happens is when the pants actually flare, they don't, obviously when we draw them, we're not going to flare them like this. Yeah, oh yeah. I'm going to try to stay on either side of the joint with this so that I don't have to worry about it. But again, this is a maquette. And so I'm not as worried about it if it doesn't flare exactly right or whatever, I'll just draw around it. The only thing I'm really after here is I want to be consistent with this. I want it to be a consistent shape. So when the person is walking down the hallway, the pants legs are the right width. And when they're sitting in the next frame, the pants legs are the right width. Um, One of the benefits of maquettes is that I can use the maquettes for consistency. Um, I'm tilted up a little here. It's more like sort of this. Right? So that's kind of where we're headed on this. Now looking at it that way, I don't know if I like it flaring forward and backward as much. So let's take a look here. We'll go like this. So it's more about consistency than it is about being absolutely accurate and correct in the right shape. We're going to ultimately have to, um, we're going to end up doing work on it. UV mapping. Brain, bye bye. So we're going to UV map it. Knowing that we're going to UV map it, it's going to be one of those things where I'm not as worried about it because, of course, I'm going to be drawing over it every time. So you don't have to worry that much about it. It's like her feet. I'm never putting boots on these guys. There's no need. I can just draw around the toes, right? But the big thing is that I was noticing that between each drawing of when I did this drawing here, between each one of these drawings here, here, and here, the width of that changed because I wasn't sure how far out I should go. More importantly, there's a red emergency stripe that goes along this side of it right here and then forward. And as we turn around the corner here and her leg turns this way, I was having a hard time finding where that stripe went. And it's an emergency stripe. We should probably put it in the same place every time. So, kind of going for that. I wonder if I should make these emergency stripes orange because orange and blue goes together better than red and blue. Orange is an offset color, right? So it's the opposite side. So let's real quickly grab this and then hit exactly the opposite side of here and see if that complements. Wonder if that'll complement. Yeah, look at that. That actually does look cool. Nope. It does look cool, but that's not what we're looking for. I'm going to sneeze. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. I have no idea. I sneezed. Okay. I mean, looking at this, I'm kind of thinking orange is much better. It changed her eyes to orange. That's interesting and somewhat disturbing. But that's okay. But I think the orange is a better offset color. We'll go for orange for the emergency. And then we can brighten it up to yellow when it lights up. But I think orange is going to be a better choice all the way around for emergency lighting. Anyway, there is a long emergency lighting stripe over here, which comes along here and then opens up for the RC thrusters. So we want to make sure we get that. That's going to be complicated to draw every time. And I can already see I did it wrong here from here. They're two different things. So that's all we're really after here is just giving me enough of a guide here to figure out where everything is. Right. So knowing that that's the case, we can leave some of this. See how the leg is kind of coming through here? That's okay. It's not going to be a problem. All of this is going to be kind of floofy for her pants, just the way the pants work. So we'll go here. I actually kind of like the idea of flaring in just a hair. We can, so we might as well give a little bit more flare inward, like so. And then that gives us sort of that look there. Still not as happy about it flaring forward or backward as much. Maybe more like that. Taking a look at it there. There we go. So a little bit more like the flare that gives also us gives us where the boot is and stuff like that. So there we go. And it just mates up there with the top of the mesh, right at her knee. And this gives her just the pants leg, right? The basic shape of where the pants leg is. And what we'll do is we'll go on ahead and UV map this, we'll save it, and then it'll just be an item. And then we will flip it, and then it will be another. And every uniform that I make from this point forward, we'll just scale it in and fit it to the person's legs as part of just the things we do. So, but the first thing also we want to do is put in the RC thruster section here. So we're about to do the evil thing, because this is going to be kind of evil. But I'm going to take this out and take the face of these guys, face, you, face, and you, face, and the same thing down here. I'm going to switch to this. That should have gotten rid of all of the guys in the middle, and it did. Okay, so we're going to select you, and all of you guys down here. And what we're going to do is actually build a face across here, which looks like that, which makes that a flat face for RC thrusters, right? So we'll then take you and all of you guys up here, and we'll build a face there. And that gives us this really nice little flat face where the RC thrusters live. And then I'm going to bring this guy in, I believe. So we're going to go to the side. I need to make him kind of straight like so. And take this guy, bring him in straight too. There we go. And there's the flat spots for our RC thrusters. I don't like this angle right here, right? That's the angle I'm not liking. So let's do this. Bring it forward, because it's just not going to be dramatic. There we go. The RC thrusters live inside that pack. They don't weigh anything. You've got, I don't know. We'll come up with the actual like design. How many newtons does it have? How much thrust can it go through? How much time do we need for it? But we should flare forward more than back, because you're right. The one thing about this is sitting. We don't want to go too far back because you don't want to have to be banging these things into the seats and stuff like that. So we'll flare forward more. And I think I like this. I think this is where we're going to be. This looks good. We got enough of a flare here that it'll be fine. I don't need to worry necessarily about this stuff here. In fact, I'm kind of thinking what I might do is just take half of these guys and shrink them in, right? So that they're just not even in the equation anymore, right? Then you've got the knee, and the knee kind of has a shape around the outside edge. And then all you really have is it flaring out at the bottom where it sort of drapes a little bit. But for the most part, it's not a problem, right? And we'll do the same thing with this side. Just shrink it down. Boy, you're just determined to not work with me here. We'll do this side. And nope. Only need to catch these vertices, guys. Only these. There we go. Shrink it down. We didn't even catch all of them, but that's okay. Now catch this one guy. There he is. There we go. So that's what we're going to have there. So it's not fully extruding out of the knee. The knee has a little bit of a curve inside. It'll be able to kind of flare in and flare out a little. It'll look a little bit more natural this way. I may even kind of come around the front here and do the same kind of thing up front. No, I like the way it is. Looks like it drapes and hangs the right way that way. So we'll just let it go on ahead and go. That looks fine. I think that looks good. And there we are. I'd call these spats because they almost look like spats, but they're not on the boots. But they look like the same kind of flare that you'd have on your boots to be like spats. And I kind of like the idea of calling them spats because then it's funny. Anyway, I don't know what we're going to call it. We'll call it something in a minute. We'll get there. Right now, it is almost identical to the piece that we're going to have on the wrist. So might as well just go on ahead and duplicate it. And we'll copy it, switch back into object mode, copy, and paste. It's very important that you're in object mode when you copy and paste these things. Otherwise, you don't get a duplicate. You get a child of, and you don't want a child. Nobody wants a child. I have a child. I'm just kidding. I actually like my child. I like my child a whole lot. I'm actually really glad to have a child. Edit mode. Hey, George, you want to visit? Is it a George visit time? Is it time to visit? Is it a George visit moment? It's time for George to visit. I'll turn on the Ring camera. We can visit with George and have a George break. Hey, George. Oh, what a cat. What a cat, George. How you doing? How you doing? Sometimes we just have to have a George break. George comes over here and he just has to visit. Right, George? This is your thing. This is what you do. You're a good George. Oh, I like tummy rubs, he says. Really like tummy rubs. Oh, I like tummy rubs. He really likes tummy rubs. George. Now he's all purring. He's a purry, happy furry. Okay. Time for you to go over here and be. Now we got work to do. All right, so back to here. Brent says hi, by the way. It's good to say hi to Brent, huh? Brent likes you. Brent has a cat too, who is also a kitten and somewhat destructive. You go to object mode. I want you. Edit mode. We'll zoom in. All right. We need to go into naked mode. There's a lot of modes here. I'm going to rotate this so that it fits to the arm. And we can already see we're going to need to scale the whole 9 yards down. Woo! The whole 9 yards down is this button. I'm going to bring it to here because this is only coming off of her wrist to some degree. So there we go. And we're going to put that right there. Oh no. Tormund likes cheek rubs. George likes cheek rubs too, but he was really into his belly being rubbed this time. I've been thinking about putting a camera over there on the 3D printer and watching. And as it prints, because it does it, but the problem is the resin printers, they dip down and they come up, and then they dip down and they come up, and they dip down and they come up. So I'd have to set a motion sensor so that it would take a picture when it came up, Otherwise, I just end up with as it built, and it'd be like, whoa, a little bit more dramatic than I need it to be. All right, I'm going to move this here. Look at the top of her wrist. So now we can talk about this. In edit mode, in naked mode, in all of these different modes, we're going to hit scale and bring this out like so. And then we're going to rotate it so it fits the wrist a little bit better. And I like the way that this is already sort of tilted to kind of fit that wrist. So we're going to do the same thing, but I am going to bring it back more so that it is here-ish. Yeah, I was going to say, I kind of was thinking that would be cool to do that, but just like you were saying, the problem with resin printers. There we go. So using the same technology we just used, we're going to do this way. We're going to go kind of here. And then we're going to bring this up just a little bit there. So it kind of comes out more, like so. Well, maybe more like that. Let's take a look at that and see what we got. Right. Let's take a look at what it looks like on the model. You'll see that's not bad. We're going to have to fix the wrist. It's going to have to be thicker to fit her wrist, but I think that's good. And she's got RC thrusters there too, although I'm going to tilt these RC thrusters back. Because, of course, the idea you're going to want to do is this to thrust one direction or another, just to get control. Because there may be a control issue once you've been ejected from a ship. You may be, rotating a lot, so you're trying to control your spin. Then you're going to want to do, like sort of like the Iron Man thing and come back. So let's go ahead and kind of do this. And take this guy here. First things first, let's make him bigger. Scale him up so it fits the wrist more. That's important. All right. So now we've got it so that it should be coming out of all sides of her wrist there. Good. And probably this needs to fit a little bit more into the arm itself. So we're going to take this guy right here and go like this. Go this way. And kind of go like that. Bring that forward to there. Give or take. Back to there. And we're just shaping this in. That's all we're doing here. Just kind of, yes, I can draw around it. I certainly can, but why make this more complicated? Give myself as much advantage as I possibly can. When it comes to actually drawing these comics, and we're going to be down in the in the bunkers sort of doing this, the more advantage I can give myself, save myself 5 seconds here, 5 seconds there, and that's going to be extremely useful. So anytime I can save myself just a handful of seconds, we're going to be, it's a benefit. It's totally a benefit. So we're going to push this right there. Like so. And kind of do that. Just give it a little bit of shape, right? Because I mean, we want that to kind of be shaped in a way. And I still feel like we've got kind of problems with that wrist. I don't want it to not show. So let's go ahead and just bring it up. And we'll go this way. Let's take a look at this way. There we go. All right. So as a side note, since we're here and already talking, New Year's is going to be on Friday. New Year's Eve is Friday. And New Year's Day is Saturday. And I am part of NYE this year, which is the New Year's Eve thing. It's the New Year's Eve party for this way. I want you to go the other direction. There we go. For NDK. New year, new show. We start a new season. I'm going to change the opening credits. So next week, I'm changing the opening credits to reflect the new office because we've got this new area over here and all this new area. And really, honestly, somebody had been mentioning that when I do all the little lights coming on thing, there should at least be some acknowledgement of all the starships up there, because it's me, and it's really silly that my starship collection is not in my opening credits because that's such a me thing. So that, and then maybe I should highlight the printer station and stuff like that. But also the old opening credits didn't show this guy, my tablet, which is like the centerpiece of what I do. So kind of thinking that we're going to do a new opening credits sequence. That's going to be my job this Sunday. And then we're going to start a new year, new show. The thing about this is that we're going to do a few things, but that's not what I was talking about, because I'm actually kind of excited about that. One of the other things I'm going to start doing is looking for more music to put in here, because I think we've been listening to the same bout of music. Even though I have it on random, we've been listening to the same bout of music for a year now. So I think it's time for us to get some more music in here. So I still support and there's a few other things, like my father has passed, and in the end credits, he's a patron, and he's no longer a patron, obviously, because he's passed on. So things like that, want to kind of acknowledge that. We got to change and shake up our Patreon page in the end. A couple of people have left, a couple of people have, downgraded, stuff like that. So, and then there have been a couple of people who've been added. So I've been good about adding them to my end credits. I've been kind of bad about, depreciating them. So just stuff like that. We've got some work to do. All of it's housekeeping. I think I'm pretty much going to just spend all of Sunday on that, but do a new opening credits. That'd be cool. And closing credits, kind of fix stuff. Little things like my opening credits have a 20-second black rollout at the end, which means that every time I run my opening credits, I have to manually stop my opening credits before saying hello. Because if I don't, it'll just roll for 20 seconds in black. And so it's a silly thing, but it's been something that I've kind of gotten fussy with over the last year, and kind of, Really wish it wasn't doing that, sort of thing. So yeah, that's it. Kind of gussy up stuff. We're doing good over here. Things are cool. Things have changed over the last year a lot, obviously, in here in the office. So I'm going to do that. That seems like a fun thing to do. So we're going to do that. And let's see what else. I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to just do that kind of thing. And then we should have that done. And that'll be good. So, George is still going to be here. Obviously, he comes over and visits me halfway through the show all the time. So, it's George's thing. George is into that. Yeah. Yeah. We might actually be on location sometimes. If you are noticing right here, this is my Olivia, which is already set up to do the things. Olivia here has a specific job. And this is a really cool thing. The Olivia holds my phone like this. And so I can put my phone on here and it's got a light so that it can light up what I'm working on. And the camera aims down and you can see me working, right here on this. The stand is 1 kilo. So it's a big, heavy stand. And it works really nicely and everything like that. So we might be able to do shows from, say, Starbucks or just out there in the park, which would be kind of nice, right? The cool thing about this guy is it's really nifty and it folds right up. Right? And that's what it does. And it's easily portable and it's extremely, it's got a very long cable capability. Fully extended. It's kind of hard to kind of appreciate how far this guy can extend out. But I can get quite an altitude on him. So that's kind of cool. So next year, during the show, I expect that I will probably be on location. That's what I bought this guy for. So we can go out and do Watercolor Wednesday at the Starbucks. And I'll actually just have watercolors and just work on them. So it's my Olivia going to be joining us next year. That'll be kind of cool. So that's where we're going. So back to work here. I'm going to look at this here and just kind of get an idea of whether it looks good or not. It looks fine. Kind of like the way this looks. Just enough of a poof on the arms that you can see it. There's probably controls here of some sort. Maybe I'll actually add controls now to this. Now, the next thing we need to do is pockets, because I've been called to the carpet for not having pockets, and they're not wrong. My poor characters have no pockets on their uniforms, and it's a Star Trek flaw that doesn't need to exist. So we're going to go back into object mode. We're going to add a mesh. We're going to add a cube. And it really doesn't need to be complicated on this one. We're just going to kind of make it like it's just going to be straight up. It's just going to be pockets. So we're going to add pockets. So here we go. We're going to go into edit mode. And we're just going to shrink it down. At least, though, to be fair, I was a equal opportunity, no pockets, sir. The men didn't have pockets, neither did the women. So nobody had pockets. At least that's a plus. But I don't think about these things. But yeah, of course they're going to want to have pockets. These guys are going to need pockets of some sort here. And I like the idea of hip pockets. Thanks, it has pockets. I like your uniform or your armor. Thanks, it has pockets. That's one of my favorite comics. I just love that comic to death. Okay. We're just going to go in here and we're just going to fit to the line of the maquette like so. And we're going to make them stick out a little bit, but not a lot. And this is going to be kind of hard on this side because we got to kind of fit in like so to the leg. Just because obviously in real life these guys are not just a square taped to the outside of their thigh, but instead they're a piece of cloth or clothing or whatever. So doesn't need to be complicated. Right? Just needs to be enough that we can get to it, right? So we're going to do this. I'll drop this down a little bit more. Because of course this has got a flap of some sort to control that. And actually we can bring this out more. So we will. Like so. There we go. So now we have a uniform pocket there. I'm also going to do an upper pocket on the upper arm. So there'll be 4 pockets ultimately. These pants pockets that are on the side that we normally have in our pants aren't very useful. And the more I think about the way this works, the more I think that we wouldn't have pockets on our pants that were up here inside, but rather you'd have external pockets because they can expand and things like that. And if that's just part of the nature of fashion, and over time we just stopped having these upper pockets and the back pockets on our butt, which doesn't do anything but make us sit on our phones, we would get to the point where it'd be like, well, yeah, so I call this right. We're actually let's go into object mode, and real quick let's just make sure everything's identified, because otherwise we're going to lose them. This is the wrist spat. I'm just going to call it a wrist spats. I know it's completely wrong. I'm very aware. Leg spats. We'll come up with a better name as time goes on. Okay. So take the pocket and I'm going to duplicate it. Again, we want to make sure that we are in oh man, we're going to have to adjust its spot. Hang on. And one of the major mistakes that I make a lot here is not, this dot is the centroid. Everything moves around that dot. So now we can move it up here, and when we spin it, it'll spin around that point. You see how it spins around that point? So we're going to come up here. We lost her. So we've got to be careful with this pocket because we've got a lot of movement on this joint, and we've got a lot of movement on this joint. So we want to make sure when we're in here that we push this down to where it's not in the way of the arm joint. Otherwise, it's just always going to be poking out and doing weird things every time, and we'll be like, oh, this thing irritates me. So we're going to take all of this guy. I'm going to put it in object mode again, because otherwise that centroid's going to be off. Line the centroid up with the center of the arm. Edit mode. Go this way, kind of go like that. Go this way, push in like this way, push in like that. I don't feel like this needs to be as insidey as the other one. There we go. Now we'll look and see where it is on the arm. There we go. Not bad. I feel kind of like we might want to push that in a little, maybe like that. But yeah, that'll be fine. Right? So now she has arm pockets, hip pockets, which I think these are probably, yeah, that's what I was thinking too. These hip pockets would be much more for, oh, look, I have found this sample of this item. I shall put it in my hip pocket. You know what I mean? But, yeah, you're right. I would be like, well, okay, here, I'll just put this here in my, arm pocket and stuff. Generally speaking, that's what I think those would be too. So, okay, so there we go. Now, the last piece we're going to build as a build piece on this is the spacesuit thruster pack, which is going to go on the front. So we're going to go back into object mode because I feel like we are good with that pocket, and both of the spats. I'm saying that like you have objected. You've never objected to any of these things. So it's funny that I am, so sure you're going to object. Okay, we're going to make another cube. Go into the naked mode here. And it's only because really in the military, the only people who I know that still in the US military that wears spats are the Marines. And the original uniforms that we built for when I built these original uniforms, the Class A's have actual spats on them. So the boots actually have spat shields on top. And I don't think I've actually put those in. Right. I object. I don't feel like I've actually put those in on the recent Class A's. But anyway, I'm trying to think. We always sort of portray the spacefaring folks with these elaborate, very elaborate spacesuits. And the more I think about it, the more I think, you're going to have the spacesuit piece, the piece that's actually going to be part of the spacesuit, is only really going to be more like a hard hat in a construction zone, right? It's going to carry your auxiliary oxygen. It's going to carry a longer range beacon so you can be found. It's going to carry, 200 meters of monofilament rope or maybe multiple filament rope so it won't cut through your suit and knock your arm off. Things like that. It's just a hard hat. So I'm thinking of an upper shell that just clamps onto the front of the chest and the back of the chest, has these two wings in the back so that the wings are there really because you should be able to recognize the suit as, a Bellatrix Rising spacesuit. So I'm going to make it look interesting. But the truth of the matter is I'm not terribly, they can be gravity shields or whatever, so we can kind of, they don't have to actually be gravity, but you get the idea. And so we're going to extend this out to not there, to here and here. But the way I see this is it's a hard hat. So we're going to design it as if it was a hard hat. There we go. We're just kind of giving shape to this design. And we'll take this half of it. Eesh, what a mess I've made. Ugh. We'll go like this. We'll go like so to about there. We'll extrude and bring it out to here. And then this, we can just scale in this way. And what we're looking now at is just sort of, there's still more work to do. We're not done. So don't worry. It looks more like a life vest right now than it does what it's supposed to look like. So we can bring this guy in now to there. And we'll bring this guy over and down sort of more like this. And then we'll bring this guy up. And I actually think I'm going to add another piece here. So we'll come in like so. And we'll do that. There we go. Kind of moving in to more of the shape that we're looking for. I'm going to move these two pieces in. We're going to move this piece in like so. We'll do the same thing with this. We'll move that in. All right. We're just sculpting it now. Now, the fact that this is a back support, we really kind of do want this to be down more in the back. It's got to support the back. So we're going to come out here like so, and then bring this up like that. And part of this is that we're going to have kind of interesting little widgets anyway, because of the nature of the beast. You want thruster clusters and things like that. So there's going to be a lot of rando stuff that's going to be hanging out on this suit anyway. Like we can bring this guy up and that one down a little bit more, and this guy over, right? So more like this design. When we look at the back, kind of doing that. We're going to want to come out more, out so that these guys are not QK. Time for a break. Let's take a break in a second here because I'm kind of still fussing with this, and I like where I'm fussing at this point. So I'm bring this way and then up, and bring this guy up, and bring this guy in. And then looking at it from here, I can probably bring this guy in too, right? There we go. And maybe, I don't know how far back I can go before I end up in nipple land. All right, let's take a quick break. Now, I picked Bennett's model because in the end, she's the largest chested of the girls. So I figure if I can get her to fit inside this chest piece, I can get any of the other characters to fit inside the chest piece. So I don't want to actually have to readjust the maquette every time. So we're just going to call any extra space up here, cooling, whatever, lines. It, like I said, it extends the life of the spacesuit in vacuum. So we've got an extra amount of time that the person can live out here in vacuum with this suit. But all it really does is augment the existing our existing suit. Right? Because the suit itself already operates just fine. Your uniform will protect you from vacuum for a long time. So really, any extra space that this is taking up front here can be all kinds of, extra fuel or things like that. There we go. Make this less pointed, more like that. Just smoothing it out. Right? Because we look here and this guy is way out and he doesn't need to be. Right? I like these guys sort of jutting out more because this is like a big jetpack area. Right through here is going to be jetpacks and things like that. So I'm going to give this much more of an aggressive angle and aim it outward like that. Aim this more like this. Because in the end, that's the jetpack. Right? That's where you're going to have a major thruster pack of some sort. And we're just sculpting it back in a little. There we go. One thing we do want is to raise this a little, and then we're going to put lights inside that right there. So you have forward lights that can just shine in front of you so you can see everything. I've never understood the idea of flashlights. Why would you put flashlights on there? Just put two forward facing high intensity LEDs on either side here. And then that way, and they're aimed slightly down so that you, when you turn to talk to Bob, it's not like, "Hi, Bob," or whatever. Or, I mean, it's the future. Maybe they're smart enough to not just shine in people's faces. And heck, we can almost do that today. I feel like this guy needs to go down and out. That gives me more room here for this. Move this out like so. There we go. Just like that. All right. Make it lined up so that it's flat. Or at least as flat as I can make it. And that'll be a lighting mount right there. Okay, there we go. So we can put a light right there and it'll be on either side, shining forward. I feel like this guy now needs to go like so. A little more in line with this. Actually, we can bring this out a little bit more and down. And out and down. And out and down. And slightly in. And we'll do that same thing with this guy right here, just slightly in and down. There we go. Just making sure that these lines sort of fit. We don't want them to... We want some aesthetic to this. So we're going to head downward with this line. We're going to head in with this, just a hair. And this just gives it some aesthetic here. There we go. There we go. So that's the chest piece, or at least one side of the chest piece, obviously. I'm going to go forward here. I'm going to do this. We're going to match it to the lines here. We're just going to just temporarily turn that off. We can't see anything as long as she's on there. We're just going to line this guy up. Because if we don't, when we mirror this is going to suck. And the mirror function does give us the ability to give a tolerance level. How much tolerance can we give? So there we go. We just want to make sure that when we mirror it, the tolerance, I'll show you. I'm actually kind of feeling like this guy should be more like so. Bring it in a little. Bring it in, man. Bring it in. Okay. So now we can, but let's double check, make sure we didn't just screw something up by doing that, because of course we kind of did. And we want to kind of bring all of this in if we're bringing it in. Right. There we go. We're just giving it a little bit more. And again, we want to follow the lines. Our last little check before we duplicate this side. Now, you guys may have noticed that women have a slightly different shaped chest. No, I know you probably have never noticed that. So we're going to actually have to make a different version of this for the men, which is okay. The main character is female, so we'll start with the female one. All right. So now we're going to take this guy here, object mode. We're going to go into here and add modifier. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go down to mirror. Mirror. But first, where's the pivot point? Let's see. Pivot point's in the right spot. It's at least a plus. So this is where I was talking about merging in a point that's understandable. Like, how close did it get with its mirror? And it looks like it did fine. It doesn't look like the center pieces are two different units. But I am going to end up with that internal piece here. So I'm going to try to see if I can't make it go until it merges to the next side, because that center piece is going to be an issue. So I'm going to go until it starts deforming other pieces of the mesh. Okay. And that means that I know for a fact that these two pieces now are together as one unit. Okay, so now we're going to do that. We can actually now apply this, and now it exists. It really does exist. It really does exist. It's a real boy. So now we're going to take this, and we've noticed that we have a boob hanging out, so we've got to fix this. So we're going to take, and we're actually just going to go widthwise on this. You're going to edit mode. We're going to go widthwise on this. We're going to take, but we got to make sure we're in naked mode. And we're going to just go like this. We're going to extend it out. Nope, not that way. Only on the red. And then we're going to move it over. Because she's actually not centered on here. She's not centered on the actual grid. She's not centered. And now that we've added all these pieces to her, I'm not going to center her anymore, because that would be ridiculous. I'd have to move everything, and I don't want to mess with it. It's not worth it for this fight. You know what I mean? Just not worth it for the fight. So what we're going to do, we're going to just take a look here and then see where we can extend to fit. Like, that covers that and that. I'm noticing that she's probably just not symmetrical, which is fine. I'm sure it bothers her every morning when she gets up in the morning and she's like, "Ugh, I'm not symmetrical." There we go. And that's it. Now we've assembled it to her body and it fits her very well. I didn't add the wings because we haven't gotten there yet, but we will. Somewhere along the line, somebody had, it was Bubblegum Crisis. Bubblegum Crisis, one of the hard suits in Bubblegum Crisis had twin wings, and the wings had thrusters at the ends of the wings. And I really loved that because A, it made them look like a butterfly, for one. But B, the idea was that there's an awful lot of momentum arm on that thrust that you could get. So you get, a small amount of thrust can twist the entire body quite a bit. So you'd get an awful lot of movement out of that thruster. So kind of like the idea of like X wings in a way on the back. Kind of cool. But I feel like that piece is done. So let's go on ahead and save this as uniform. Save it. That way we don't lose it. Because now we're at a point where I feel like this is pretty close to what we're looking for. I feel like this is kind of still bulky. So I kind of want to look at this a little and maybe bring this in. Like, I feel like it'd be uncomfortable with your arms. Right? Like your arms would be constantly brushing against it and you'd be stuck kind of walking around all the time. I'm in my spacesuit. I hate my spacesuit. You know. Kind of also feel like now, whatever we do now, we have to be sure we do it to both sides. So, like these guys here, now I kind of want to push back a little more so it's not as pointy. More like that. We're just doing some final little tweaks on this. Just kind of getting it. That's not the same critter on either side, is it? I'm noticing that no matter what, it is not quite as mirrored as I'd like it to be. There we go. That is mirrored. There we go. Okay, good. I'm just kind of doing that number. There. We're just making sure that some things don't have funny. I'm noticing, speaking of funny, look at that. They're not. This is going to this point right here. So let's grab both of those points and bring them back. So that's out. The other thing I'm trying to kind of figure. Yep. Well, that's what I was thinking too. It's chest armor as well. So this will be the beginning of what the Marines wear as well. I mean, not just our Navy guys, but the Marines as well. It'll be sort of the beginning of what the Marine armor looks like. Let's take a look at that. Just trying to give some stress relief to this one square right here. This is a little, it got a little stressy there, got a little tied up in you know, probably was not the wisest move. I should have done this from this side. And taken him and just brought him down like so. Work. Okay. And these are just the initial pieces right there, just kind of like that. Oh, now I know why I was talking about New Year's. There's an NYE event, which is the New Year's Ball. And it takes place Friday and Saturday. So I actually move into the hotel tomorrow afternoon. I can have a show tomorrow. That's going to be fine. But Friday's show, I'm going to be setting up for this event, and I'll be at the Marriott downtown. So I won't be here. So I wanted to say that so that you weren't surprised when I'm not here on Friday. And now that I can set up pre-recorded events, though, that's the way to do it. So, okay. We get kind of going out the sides there. Looks good. Looks good. This will protect you down to a gajillion millibars of pressure or whatever. Not terribly worried. Oh, noes. I'm sorry, man. Okay. That's all right. I'll be back next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. We'll just keep going. We have many weeks worth of work to do. So don't worry. These are, I don't know if I've ever talked about this on air before, but these are my weekly planners. And they show me each day has a different color because I am who I am. But you've got like all of the different days here. And then this is a billing chart that allows me to mark how many hours I've worked for different people. If ever there was a time that there was accountability needed for that. So, and this is next year's sheets, of course, 53 weeks for next year. So this is all 2022 right here. And that's cool. It makes a nice thumpy noise. Thump, thump. And so, well, of course it has to be artsy and pretty. I couldn't stand it if it wasn't colored in some way. I'd be like, oh, it's so boring. It'd drive me crazy. All right. I feel like we've done the chest piece, the leg pieces. These are all bits and pieces of armor, or not armor, but uniform and spacesuit. Let's give ourselves the wing. Let's put that wing in, and we will call this a good job for the day. So the spacesuit has a gravity wing or a thing, but I want you to be able to readily see that this is a a Unity spacesuit. And so it's going to have these wings on it so that you can kind of tell. A lot of things we do are practical when it comes to artwork. Obviously with Bellatrix Rising, I'm trying to kind of establish what a world would look like in the future. And some of it is very much a concept of no, that wasn't what I wanted you to do. A lot of it is very much here. Suit thing, right? Suit wing. So we're going to take this here and we're going to select the suit wing, put it out here. So most of the time we want to be, efficient and make it look like the thing that we're, practical. That's the word. I'm having a real problem with that word. We want it to be practical. We want it to look like spacesuits from NASA or whatever. And that makes total sense. However, there comes a point where you need this to be somewhat impractical and give a little bit of an art spin to it so that people can readily identify it. For example, in real life, all Soviet spacesuits are sort of white and slightly off-white. And the reason is because in space, reflecting light away from your suit is better because otherwise it just heats up because there's nowhere to go. There's no air in space, so there's no medium to transmit the heat. So your suit, as the sun hits it, your suit just starts to heat up. So all spacesuits in space are going to be white. That's the nature of things because white or silver. Silver's probably not good because it would shine in your fellow astronaut's face and they would be like, I hate you because I cannot see now. But for the most part, they'd all be white, right? Well, when it comes to artwork, that's kind of boring because if they're all white, right, you can't tell them apart. So in a lot of our movies and stuff like that, gold will work too. That's one of the reasons why you see gold foil around a lot of spacecraft. But if you did that in like movies where we have, the Americans standing on the moon and then there's the Russians standing on the moon and they're mad at each other and they're going to now fight with guns or I don't know, whatever. They always depict the Russians in red spacesuits. The Russians don't wear red spacesuits. Their spacesuits are white for the exact same reason why our spacesuits are white. So if we want to depict our characters in spacesuits, we're going to have to come up with some kind of artsy design that makes some sense as to why they're kind of not wearing the, obvious things. So that's what we're going to do here. We're actually going to come down like so. And this is the connector that connects it to the suit right here. I'm just going to go ahead and do this and then extend out like so. Extrude from here. Wait, did I just extrude twice? I did. There we go. Extrude out from here. I think I did it again. Stop extruding. There we go. Be good. Be good, be good. Be good, be good, be good. So we're just going to give kind of a wing to the suit. It kind of looks like so. There we go. All we got going here is just this wing, right? And I'm going to taper it a little bit more on the top and the bottom and the outside. But for the most part, it's just a wing, and it's just going to sit on the back of the suit on both sides, or maybe just one side. Now, the wing is multi-purpose. I figure one of the other things that can be on here is a mounted gun. So you can have a cannon mounted up on that wing and things like that. So we can use it for multi-purpose if we need to. I'm just going to bring that in, bring that in too. And a lot of the things that I'm inspired by, obviously, are involved in here. I'm very inspired by Macross. And the fast packs on the back of the Valkyries are kind of cool. So I like the idea of maybe an extra thruster pack too on here. So you've got the ability to control quite a bit of maneuverability here because this is a mobile unit. It can move. So I'll put a thruster pack on this. She'll be able to use it as a pack and change its position and get extra boost out of it. So give that there. Just a little bit like that. I'll actually bring this forward a little bit more. Maybe I'll bring it down just a hair. There we go. The bunny ears. All right. With this, you'll notice I put the object's pinpoint right in the center of this pivot. And that's because that way, when I pivot it out, it'll pivot on that point. And see that like that. And it actually probably should sit a little further out like there. So there we go. And since we did not actually do well, what we need to do is this and just go like so. The wider we are, the further out we are, the more control we have over this. There we go. All right, guys. And we're looking at the first prototype of this suit and what the suit will look kind of like. I feel kind of like, well, no, I kind of like the wings kind of being like that. But I do feel like this thruster pack needs to be a little bit more this way. There we go. More like that. And maybe make it more flat to this side and a little bit more expressive outward, like so. Like, I mean, it's intended to be. What? Think we're gonna have space swords? Pfft, who has space swords? I want space swords now. Kind of want space swords. Anyway, we do have effectively Jedi monks. So, I mean, it could happen. Anything could happen. So, one thing we're going to have to do, though, before we do this is get rid of this internal piece here because there's a piece in here you can't, it's hard to see, but there's a juncture in the center. You can see it right here. So, if I delete that, I'm going to be deleting the vertice out of there. But I also want to make sure I've got this guy too. Delete the vertice because we got kind of an internal rig, and that makes things really difficult when we finally get into UV mapping. We want this to be hollow inside. There we go. Making sure that we're no longer running an internal wall in there. That'll work. Okay. So now when we look at this, we've got just the pieces out there that work. We've got a uniform pieces. We've got pockets. Thanks, it has pockets. And we've got just, and I think I can actually tilt that out a little bit more like so. There we go. We have our bunny ears, which I think will be great. Right? Space swords. I'm trying to figure out what you would use a space sword for, or how we would use a space sword. Right? I mean, what would we use a space sword for? I mean, other than being super cool, what would we use a space sword for? Right? So let's think that one through. Because I'm not opposed. Dune has the coolest concept behind how come you need to have space swords. The shields. You're probably right. It'd just be ceremonial. It's kind of like a pickup truck to me. I mean, it's like if you're going to have a truck and then you put one of those little deck things on it that effectively makes your entire bed of your truck sealed. So you can't use the bed of your truck anymore. All you really have is a two-seater car. It looks too big. So, I mean, I kind of have sort of an issue with things that don't have a purpose. I mean, 'cause you're right. I mean, you use the sword for ceremony. It'd be ceremonial, but I also feel like, well, and I think that we would have, I mean, I feel kind of like we talk about, like in Picard, the Qowat Malat. We now have the Qowat Malat carrying swords, and the swords in the age of phasers are still really deadly. Close combat swords are great. Um, but I'm still kind of trying to figure out, what would we use a sword for? And it's all because we absolutely adore the Japanese and their samurai swords, the katana, which is so froopy and cool, and we absolutely love it. Okay, so what I'm going to do next, I think, is I'm going to UV map these things. And I'm going to hate life because everything's a cylinder. Pockets and spats are going to be done on one UV map. Ultra, I assume that's ultraviolet and not ultraviolet. And I've never seen that movie, so. What was the concept therein? We'll save. First things first, let's go on ahead and do the pieces of the uniform we're going to need right away. Go to object mode, select you. Realizing now that edit mode, we need to do some work here. Crap. What's wrong, says everyone. It's way off its center. So what happens in ultraviolet? Now I'm curious. Gotcha. So you're kind of using the sword to I'm going to move this forward until it's locked into place here. We're just adjusting its centroid. Its centroid's all screwed up. So like inside a ship, well, and maybe that makes sense. If I have a projectile weapon, the last thing I really want to do is decompress the ship, right? I mean, space the ship seems like a bad idea. Or, I mean, breaking parts of the ship that you might need. I was thinking about that while watching The Expanse, season 6 of The Expanse. They're trying to get into this ship and they're shooting at each other with guns, which is fine, but the guns are flying, the bullets are flying around the internal bridge of this ship and striking computer, not you. Never mind. Yeah. I get it. It's all right. Boy, you give me an earful every time. But the bullets are flying around, striking consoles and things like that. And they're trying to get the data out of the main banks of this ship, the Seaward banks. So, and I keep thinking about that every time I see that. I'm like, it just seems like a horrible idea to start shooting inside a ship, punching holes. I mean, unless you don't care. If you don't care, then it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to take, I still feel like this is off by like backwards. See how it looks like it's backwards bent? Kind of want to fix that. Right? I kind of want to rotate this or something. I mean, it is in line with, I don't know if I feel like it's in line with, you want it to be in line with the arm because you want to, you don't want it to be off center and firing that way. Otherwise, every time you'll rotate. So it has to be in line with the arm somehow. So I feel like we're going to go this way. So I feel like it looks right. so now it's in line with the arm. Okay. Let's make sure we haven't borked it. Yeah, because I kind of now want to bring it down. And maybe just a little bit less stressiness here. You know what I mean? Before I map this, I want to make sure it's just as good as I can make it. And I feel like this guy should probably be matched as much as possible to the arm. There we go. There we go. I've also been thinking a lot about the philosophy of my military. What is the philosophy? The philosophy of the unity is more of everybody gets a chance. You know, everybody gets a second chance. Everybody gets to figure it out. Everybody has a right to counseling. That kind of thing. So you really have sort of what's the point of the military concept kind of going on. I had this sort of imaginary conversation that probably should be brought back out between Alex and these guys talking about what's their role in the world. If the unity believes that we don't shoot first, if that's the belief of the unity, why then is this ship armed? Right? So that's something I've been kind of pondering. It's going to be armed. This isn't a question of whether it's going to be armed or not. It's a matter of what's the philosophy that our heroes go through in their head to justify their actions and their weapons and things like that. Why do they have them? If the unity believes firmly that everybody deserves a second chance and everybody deserves the right to be treated with a certain amount of initial, what was it I'm thinking here? Because I was thinking of the philosophy. And the philosophy really boils down to not wanting to use that violence is the resort of a desperate man. So take away the desperation. How can I address your desperation? How do I address your problem as opposed to let's just shoot you? And so these are all things that if they're going to address desperation, what's the point of having the unity? Why be armed? Well, and of course, the truth is that not everybody believes that, and not everybody is going to enter a situation with their arms open, expecting to be, helped. So that's the reality of it. But it does change sort of the philosophy of these things. Like I'm thinking a lot about the philosophy of how they think through things when they start thinking Like a ship at red alert and general quarters will seal all of the decks and everything like that, but they may not actually activate weapons. I mean, the weapons may be on call, the weapons may be ready, but they won't necessarily flood the tubes, so to speak. This is important. The first scene we have is them coming in on Moment, the station or the system Moment, and there's no signal coming from Moment. There's nothing. It's silent. It's absolutely silent. The only signal they get as they come in is from a secondary freighter that is moving into system and has also gotten lost because there's no beacons or anything like that. So this becomes sort of a thing. Why does the cylinder projection always go weird? Yeah, see, I can't ever get it to just unwrap straight. That's what I really want. Just want it to unwrap. Like, does it have to do it this way? Like, this is the weirdest unwrap known to man. What it's trying to do and where it's going. So strange. Okay. So, I mean, and I've got it written down because I was wrapping my brain around it one night. And so I had to write it all down because otherwise I wouldn't get it. I wouldn't understand what I was trying to say. But if you have evolution to a point where in the Unity, if you commit a crime, you're rehabbed by nature. We start with rehabilitation. That's the presumption point. You know, you start with rehab and you move from there. Instead of starting from just incarceration and then moving to rehab. It starts from the point of view of rehab and moves to incarceration if you need to. In that particular concept, you'll end up ultimately with the world where, you know, people aren't as jumpy on things. I think this is really just going to end up being something I'm going to have to make a seam on. I don't really want to. That's so unseemly. Okay. We're going to call you a seam. Mark seam. And then we're going to do the same thing up here. His name is Mark. Mark Seam. Okay. We're still in this mode. We'll go here and here. No, that went the wrong way. Here. Oh, this is going to be hard. Oh, use this. Here, here, and here. And we'll call this one a seam. We'll do this, and this, and this, and that. I hope you caught all of that. You did. Good. And we will call that a seam. Okay, there we go. And now what we can do is, instead of what we were doing before, into this, and we can say Smart UV wrap. Unwrap. These are greaves. Anyway, I'm like, Music grieves. What I don't get is this. It makes me worry about this design right here, because it's saying that that's internal. I don't see that as internal. Well, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. This will be just fine right here. This part is okay. I just need to work on the grieves part of this. Okay, so that's this panel. That makes these guys these panels. That makes some sense. So we'll do this, then we'll go like this, and we'll do this, and then we'll select that guy, and then select all of these guys and move them. And when that does, now I see our problem. Do we see the problem? I see our problem. We have an internal triangle right here, right there. That means it's also in the spats below. That's gonna suck. Okay. We'll go into edit mode. We'll go into here. We'll go into here. Here. And try to get this inside guy. He's hard to hit. And I knew that. Mostly because I don't know where the heck he is. I feel like this piece is the problem right up here, this front piece. Because I feel like that's what it looks like. And I'm right. So we're going to delete it. Only the faces. Okay. And this gives us just these guys here. We're going to take you, right? You, and you, and you, and you. And this is hard to capture. And no, that's why it's hard to capture. And you, and you. And that'll make a face that we can use. Right? So we'll put in the face there. And what a mess that made. That's all right. We'll go from here. And we will say UV project from view. And that fixed that. Okay. Now when we select the whole 9 yards, we've got this guy here who's now going to have to be turned, but that's okay. We can turn him. There we go. And he fits right here. All right. All right, we'll put this like so. I want this to match in size and shape, sort of, so that when we actually do the artwork on it, these are lined up and they move together as one unit. And our show is over. But we're going to finish this real quick. And then we'll take these guys. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue working on this today. I worked on my uniform, my dress uniform last night to get it up to code so that it would be correct. And that's cool. And so there we go. We'll move this guy over a little. Kind of give him sort of this is a stripe sort of thing. There we go. We can kind of rotate this guy just a little. There we go. Okay. All right, guys. Move this over here. The greave is done. So, all right. We're going to switch back to our main module. All righty. Okay, guys. Thanks for joining me today. Like I said, that's Singing in the Rain. Like I said, though, I will be here tomorrow. So we'll have tomorrow's show, but there won't be a Friday show. And then starting Monday of next week, we'll be at season 3 or so. Or is it 2? No, on to season 3, because it was 2020 was season 1, 2021 is season 2, and 2022 is season 3. So we'll be on to the 3rd season of the show, and I'll try to do different opening credits for it and everything like that. Well, that'll be my Sunday job. In hopes that all will be good and everything will be cool. So anyway, I will see you all tomorrow. And remember to keep your eyes on the stars. Goodbye. Computer, good night.